Yes. My question is, does this universe a hologram according to you and plasma knowledge? Do you agree with my assumption or not? And the second question is related to black hole. Can be universe a black hole, considered a black hole, or the unicos? Thank you.
This is your understanding of a black hole and not ours. You can have a black hole at any level and strength. And in so many ways, we don't see life as a hologram. Life is not hollow, and it's not a diagram. It has a consistency of a plasma of life and physicality. Life is full of meaning, and there is no way in the universe that is hollow. This is your understanding of a black hole and not ours. You can have a black hole at any level and strength. And in so many ways, we don't see life as a hologram. Life is not hollow, and it's not a diagram. It has a consistency of a plasma of life and physicality. Life is full of meaning, and there is no way in the universe that is hollow. How do we see it? How do we extend it? How do we understand it? Is according to our intelligence, as we have said before.
The environment or around it, or interacts with the environment around it, instead of a calcium or an oxygen or a nitrogen. I know in the past you've referred to these as the like hydrogen is the energy source, and one of the others is the communicator, and one is the balancer, and so forth and so on. And those kinds of ways of expressing, they appeal to me because I can understand it on an internal feeling, emotional level, rather than names and numbers and so forth and so on. And I'm wondering if you could expand on that some, or is that the way the teaching is going to go more? Or am I correct in that assumption?
What do you want to explain? What you don't understand?
I guess I'm always searching for the key to my understanding of the totality. And it seems to me it's not on a mental level, has to come at a feeling level where I understand it, because it makes, I can do it. It communicates to me that where I go, aha, yes, I can do this.
I think I explained this once somewhere, and maybe it's time to reiterate on it again. And that is, when you're a man and you decide to become a marathon runner, you don't get up and run and do a full marathon the first time. You prepare yourself, then you start running a few 100 meters, and then a couple of kilometers, and then extension of strengthening different part of the body, and then understanding where are the weak points and strengthening the big points, and gradually you make a marathon man out of the man. To understand the process of interaction with the soul and the physicality of the man is the same, except a smallest common denominator that you think you can understand, you think could be a common point. Maybe you start in the wrong place to start with, but try. And then see how this takes shape. How does this become part of reality? How this gradually builds up. It won't happen in a week, it won't happen in a month, it won't happen in a year. It's taken man millions of years to reach this point of evolution. Try to understand where you make mistakes, where you didn't understand, where you thought you understood, but were slightly right or slightly off center. The process has to become part of the structure. The process has to become part of the understanding, and the process has to become part of the exception. In a way, we need to understand this process, that it'll become a common ground. Build on it. As I said to a knowledge seeker, whatever you see as the essence of why you are here, what happened, you say, no, I don't accept, I ignore. Whatever I put in front of you, you reject, because this way you can walk away with your own ignorance. Why am I here? What's the purpose of me here? Why have I been brought to this position? Why I made such a move and it's brought me to such a position to understand or take the next step. And what was the purpose of my life to be at this point? As long as you see it in a physical dimension, so do the cows walk from one end of the field to another and go back to the same point every day to eat grass. So there is no difference between a man and a cow. Maybe some of them are more spiritual than we are because they have nothing else to do but depth of the ground. In so many ways, analyze the totality of life. Look at with a true understanding of, without prejudice and totality, the reason I'm here, what brought me here, and be clear with yourself what brought you to be in this point in time. What is the purpose of me being here? Then try to understand what I did in physical life, which was right or to me wrong or to my advantage at that time. I thought that now out of nowhere, I sit here and I can see the reason for it, what I did before. Your physical life has no memory of bringing you here. It must be the operation of the balance of the souls that kept in the memory bank that you have to be here because of your conduct in that point that brought you here. I go to work to get the wage at the end of the month. At the end of the month, there is no wage package on it if I haven't done the work to be able to get the wage package. And the reason for you that you have done the work is that few digits in a virtual reality of the bank statement. Somebody has put something in there that you can repeat the same process again and again the following month and the following years. This is where is the first step in confirmation of there is more than me and the operation of my physical life of eating and what I call being in the pasture of life. And then if you see that, you start creating a connection. How did my physicality knew that I've done such a thing between me and myself, that it has brought me here as a benefit, as a punishment, as a whatever you want to call it, to be today. And it reminds you by memory, you remember what you did that time? The memory remembrance is a bank account payment. Memory remembrance in coming to you as a flash of knowledge in what you did before. Then this is the confirmation of your soul. And as long as you deny this, there is no progress. Because you do not want, you do not accept, you do not live the time of reality that, okay, I walked and I got here, I did what I did, 10 years later, I'm here. You're here as a consequence of what you did 10 years ago, that if you did right or wrong, has been brought you here to balance the books, or in the collection of, in a bigger dimension, is not only now your own conduct of your soul, you have the, what I call hormones of the soul, which is what in the process of the development of the soul, yours, in connection with the souls of the past, what your father and grandfather and the fourth father did, that created partially your life to be here, that is in a response to their reaction to that time. This is what we call the return of prophet, the prophecy. They try to tell us this, but we don't understand it. But really, in real life, we live this life. Because that is what the souls have decided, that it'll come to be the point of matter of physicality, or what we call prophecy. And in that process, mankind has to mature. Why are we prophesied to be in this point of time that we will see such a thing will happen? Because the other souls and physicalities have taken the steps in both the dimension of the soul and the dimension of physicality for you to manifest yourself at this point of time in that dimension. Because we don't see and we are physical people, in that certain point in our brain, the position of our soul, we are ignorant of everything else. And as I said once, we cracked this nut so many times, we opened it, but we see an empty space, we say there is nothing there, so it cannot be there, anything else. But in fact, it's the essence of the soul of man. And even in some structures, is within the structure of the brain of the man, which man cannot see, because it's so powerful that it's diminished in size and dimension. So, what you see as a purpose and how you need to develop is to take a reference point of your life and see how your conduct in such a time led you to such a point. Maybe the conduct was 30 years ago and what you saw was 10 years ago. In 20 years, why brought from that conduct to this reason, to this position? And sometimes when you do it with understanding this, it's instantaneous. You wish, and the wish, the strength, it goes in the dimension of the strength of the soul of the man, that the soul delivers the physicality through operation of the interaction with other souls. You feel the mother so much that the mother calls, because you pass the dimension of the interaction with what we call feel the strength of the man, but you work in the dimension of the soul, where the two souls talk. Mom, he needs you. Hi, darling, how are you? What's wrong? we have to understand the strength. We have to understand, and then this becomes a reference point that next step. What I saw after 10 years brought me here. What I did in respect, in reaction, that has brought me to today. What can I change today that I can change through strength of the soul, that I can get to where I want to be? My desire for thousands of years was to be with Mitra in the existence of its totality. And when you achieve it, you bless the time you have served in understanding to reach to that point. I have a very funny situation, as my own sister is called a Mitra too. So depends which Mitra you call. In essence, one has to understand the totality. In essence, one has to come to grasp the full meaning of the operation of the soul, find a reference point, and work from that reference point. And when you do not expect to see the result or rewards for what you do, then you have entered the dimension of physicality. We see, we evolve, we create, we manifest, and we develop these conditions. We understand the totality. We comprehend the one. And then we go further. And then we understand more. Then we become to understand the totality of the existence. Then we ask ourselves, did it happen? And how would it affect me? How would it interact with my existence? How would it develop to be part of me? How would it extend the knowledge of me about my soul, my creation, and the totality of understanding of the Creator's work?
Then allow me. So what I'm trying to say, because we have plant medicine, because it is interesting. On a Tuesday, someone asked about plant medicine like psilocybin, ayahuasca, which is MEO-DMT, and we have iboga, and we have Ufo alvarius, which is pipe MEO-DMT.
Yeah, you see, let me just clarify one point. This is, again, goes back to understand that the plants are in a Ganser state too. That's why they have a direct effect on us. They're not minerals. In a different strength of the plasma, when you interact or you take herbal medicine, or herbal tea, or anything which is from a what we call evolution of interaction of the amino acids. So you're already in the realm of the strength of the amino acid of the man anyway. So interaction is much more easier. And if the plants have managed to create a condition of gathering a strength in certain combination of the amino acids, then we are in that position.
Mr. Keshe,
Then we have achieved, or the gans of the plant has achieved, to be in the what I call the structure of the man.
Mr. Keshe, so why is it?
In fact easy.
Why is it cocaine create
It communicates.
tendency? Why is
it
it?
falls within the strength of the amino acid collection. So you do, if most important things to understand, where do these what we call herbs or these elements which affect us are created in respect to the soul of the plant. And if that's the case, how they collectively have created the condition to be in the leaf, that they can create what our brain does at its highest strength in the center of the brain, with what we call different kind of herbal materials. We achieve different strengths of excitation and harmonic level. And this is the point. This is the question.
Mr. Keshe, why
So
is it that
when you
why is
speak
it
about all these names of plants, come to one point. How come a plant can create a combination of a high levels of carbon and hydrogen in connection with other things that can be matching near enough to the what we call harmonic acids or hormones of the body of the man? Is there a salt in the sections of the brain which allows these combinations to be created, like the way we produce CH3 in the gas boxes, or we produce CO2? Our knowledge has not reached as such yet that we can produce high combination of the carbons and hydrogen interaction plasmatic strength, as we call it. We have managed to achieve CH3, CH4. We haven't managed to achieve C10, H20. What does it need in the knowledge to reach that? What part of the knowledge we are missing? That knowledge seekers can produce hormones in the structure in a way as a plasmatic field that when we release it, we see combination of hormones. If you go to the book where we talk about the gases and we show the pictures of them, when we did the Raman spectroscopy and infrared spectroscopy, the report says it sees elements which have not been discovered, but man theoretically thinks they would one day discover. Because the atmosphere of this planet does not allow accumulation of the fields in the plasmatic state in that level, because the plasma is open. The plasma of the Earth does not hold configurations which can go over so many protons and electrons. If we move to the center of the universe in a tighter pack, it might allow us to go to atomic mass of 400, 500, what we call new element. They call it exotic elements because it's not exotic. It's exotic as long as it's in the atmospheric condition, pressure, field, the strength of this planet or this galaxy or this solar system. In another universe, due to the magnetic field strength pressure, it could be different. We could reach elements of mass, atomic mass of 1,000, 2,000 compared to it. Or if you add the atomic mass of any of the hormones, then it can give you a near indication if we understand the energetic value of the what we call the hormone. When you talk about carbon 44, when you talk about hydrogen of 60, that is 44 by what? By 12. Then what about the neutrons and the energy of protons? What about the what we call the boundary energy which holds them together. When you add all these together, then you get the plasmatic energy fields of the hormone. Mankind knowledge has not reached that point yet. Nobody has ever sat down and thought about these things to do, but we don't have a choice. Now we have to do it. Then with it, we know this energy pack is what it does. Then we will develop energy packs which creates that reflection and interaction. It's just us as humans have not managed to reach that point. We produce hormones on the banners of D3 and all sorts. We create radiations on the banner of folic acid and vitamin B12 and the rest of it. But in reality, we haven't understood the plasmatic energy. We are mimicking in the matter state. We are not mimicking in the soul and the universal field strength of the energy of the plasma. It's a development of knowledge, and in time we'll see. We are developing systems that will do this.
Dual life of man, where there is a life of the soul of man and the life of the physicality of man, yet they are within each other, they are together. So they are interacting. And then I go back to the creation of
dropped off again.
Creation of the neutron, for example, plasma of a neutron, which then subdivides into a proton and electron. Now, looking at the proton as the soul and the electron as the physicality of that particular atom, and looking at the life of man and life of the soul of man and life of physicality of man, is there a relationship? Can it be shown in a plasma, in a proton-electron relationship? Does the proton sometimes extend beyond the limits of an electron? And what is the result?
Always does.
So
it's like the sun expands beyond the strength of field of the sun, expands beyond the strength of the field of the Earth and Mars and the rest.
You mentioned
we see
before, Mr. Keshe,
part of the work in the bandwidth of the proton and electron. Because you have the protons and then you increase the numbers, you go to the next layer and the next layer of electrons. Because the proton themselves in the nucleus have arranged themselves in that position and that point. If we go to what we call classic nuclear physics, as we see, we have a proton, electron, and then we have the first band and the second band and the third band. They're all connected to one proton only, but how come so many electrons sit in one band? This one is an individual and one is a collective interaction of the soul or the proton. And so is the soul of the man. And depends what the strength in which position the proton sits in respect to its environment, that the electron accepts that position. And opposite to the classic, because if you look at the classic nuclear physics, they just put bunch of electrons and protons in the nucleus and bunch of neutrons and protons in nucleus, and electron in the boundary, and that's it. Which electron is connected to which proton? What's the extent of the soul? And in a classic physics in nuclear, nobody has ever gone into the depth to understand the position of the proton in respect to its in respect to its electron. To what does it extend? Why if you look at the nuclear plasma physics, we see the strongest proton goes to the center, that it creates the furthest electron. position. If it wasn't so, we will see many electrons. If the stronger proton was sitting in the outer boundary than the weaker electrons, and then they would have been responsible for the first electron, the last electron boundary, we would have seen a mayhem of collapse and collision of the electrons with each other. It doesn't happen that way. When you look at, you have to look at the structure in what we see, and then you can embed it in what we cannot see to understand the power. So the soul of the man, the dimension of the soul of the man in respect to its electron is, which is the physicality of the man, cannot be any different. And then ask yourself, why does, if you understand this, kidney is below the lung? And why in the body of the man, the lung is at the highest point? The same with the animals, because it's connected to the gaseous and is to a higher dimension, and the same with the soul, which sits right on top of it. It's the soul of, it's a parallel, but we have to understand in relation to one to the other. Next question. Hello.
Can you unmute, Ike? I've asked to unmute, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Okay, get another question in the Q&A from Doug McDonald, who says, can Mr. Keshe explain the endorphins in our body? Are they plasmatic or matter state?
Would you like to put it on the screen what it is?
You could do that, sure. Yes, I've got that set up here.
Is there anything than plasma in the body of the man?
Sorry, is there anything, what was it you just said? Is there anything, something
I said
in the
what
body?
he asked. If it's a plasma in the body of the man, I said, can you find what it is on your Wikipedia? You're a fast mover on that department. And then let's see what it is. Would you like to read it?
Okay, this is the part on endorphins in Wikipedia. Endorphins is contracted from endogenous morphine. They are indigenous, not indigenous, but endogenous opioid neuropeptides and peptide hormones in humans and other animals. They are produced and stored in the pituitary gland. The classification of molecules as endorphins is based on their pharmacological activity, as opposed to a specific chemical formulation. The endorphin class consists of alpha endorphin, beta endorphin, and gamma endorphin. All three preferentially bind to opioid receptors. The principal function of endorphins is to inhibit the communication of pain signals. Endorphins may also produce a feeling of euphoria, very similar to that produced by other opioids.
So this is a chemical plasmatic material, what we call chemical, but combination of the interaction of the plasmas in a very extensive way. If you look at, can you see the chemical combination of it? is a nitrogen based. We don't see, can you find out it's an HO combination there, please?
Well, can you see the chemical?
It definitely connects to the nitrogen. So it's a plasmatic condition. Yes, can you find out how many hydrogen nitrogens are in it? That's what I'm interested in.
See if I don't know if they actually show the pictures of it.
Go a little bit high. There it is.
Oh, there it is. The chemical formula.
H131, N19, oxygen 27, and again the magic number S, sulfur. And when you see that connection to the sulfur, it gives you a full understanding that is effective. It will affect the what we call DNA, because that sulfur being sitting in that position with such a high level of interaction with any carbon level in the body of the man, with the diversion of the what we call diversity of the hydrogen, it shows you this material will 100% interact with the what we call DNA, because it's one strength of it, but is not all the same strength all the time of the same phosphor and other combination of the elements in it. And when you see 83, it means it can interact with 83 different what we call cells, strength in order of magnitude in the body of the man. So it can interact with more or less a lot of parts of the body of the man, because his electric connection through carbon is huge. It covers a big spectrum. And then when you see the hydrogen, then you see it's a highly active. And if you go back to that formula, there is a very magic thing sitting with that formula. Can you go back to it? It's the magic part of this formula is the difference between the carbon and hydrogen is around about 48. You have 48 electron extra sitting in there. Around about, if you look at the nitrogen and the oxygen, is around about 46. This, as a plasma physicist, gave me a lot of indication how this material can interact with a lot of things in the body of man. It shows this spectrum of the diseases, conditions, emotions that this material has control of or interact, and is 100% interaction with what we call the phosphor. If you can on the side bring up the chemical numbers of cocaine or alcohol, then I can show you something very interesting. If you can just keep this one on the stage, shrink it to one side, keep it on, and then if you bring especially this one, will have an effect on, we'll see how it interacts in common denominator with cocaine, with heroin, with alcohol. Then you see how we become alcoholic, how these hormones will affect us, and how some of us never become addicts. They can inject heroin into our blood, we can walk with as we don't see it. Stop there. If you look at that combination, and then you see how dependent we become to the drugs. In which combination, what is connected. you see the ratio between the carbon and the hydrogen is about 5:1. If you have permeability of the, what do you call it, connection in the strength of the carbon with the hydrogen, you stand a very good chance of becoming addict. But the problem with cocaine, if you look at it, is has the interaction field with all four. That's why it's so addictable. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. If you can bring, please, alcohol, chemical combination of alcohol when you become alcoholic, then you understand how hormones work and make us connect to different kind of addiction. I've done a lot of research on this, and the world of science doesn't understand this. If you go up and bring out the chemical composition of alcohol, you saw with the cocaine, you have interaction with all of it. You see, with all the alcohols, you are missing the nitrogen. And you still have combination of CH ratios. And this is why addiction to cocaine and this is so devastating, because more of are connected. Then the world of science should be able to find a solution for alcoholism, and addiction in a very, very fast way. If you bring the hormones which are related to the sexual behavior, and then you watch what relations they have to alcohol, they have to cocaine, they have to everything else, and to the other factors in the body. Now understanding this, the world of addiction is so fast can be resolved. But still you have to understand the totality. We always see hydrogen in the high level, because once you made the interaction, you should be able to communicate very fast. And you need that line of communication. And then you centralize it to hold it together, that communication can take place. You connect hydrogen to the connection of the carbon with the oxygen, so you bring addiction control. The world of science has not understood these relationships, because they look at in the matter state, not in the plasma state, energy transfer. In a space, you never become addicted to anything, because it's a balanced field in interaction. If you bring other chemical substances we get addicted to, and you look at the same. We have to look at the combination of interaction of the plasmas in a spectrum of the fields of the strength of them, not in numbers. And you see a lot. The whole mystery of the addiction opens up. If you bring addiction to the basic elements of the cigarette, tobacco, or nicotine, then you see how many of us very easily get addicted to it. You look at inside the body of man as a plasma field interaction, not as element. That's why we cannot find solution in a matter state or materials for people who get addicted. But if we move in a plasmatic condition, we move in a plasmatic structure, we find very rapidly solutions. What you have, the balance level of, you can't get addicted to. I can hear you hearing a lot of ding and dongs. We're getting a storm on top of us. Any other question?
Yes, we have a couple more hands up here. Not sure if Gatwas, is your hand up again? Not sure if it's up again. If it is, go ahead.
Yes, it is. Thank you. You know, I said in the beginning I had 3 questions, but unfortunately I muted myself and couldn't go back. So thank you very much, Mr. Keshe, for your enlightening response to my first question. Here are my 2 other questions. First, you have said that the soul of Mitra is with us. My question regarding that is, how do we feel it? How do we realize? I would like to know more about that. And then the last,
what did you say?
the soul of Mitra.
Yes.
You have said that it's now among us.
Yeah.
I would like to know more about that because I haven't felt it. I don't know how to feel it or whether I should. And then the last question is about what you have called hyperactive children. I would like to know in general the behavior of the so-called hyperactive children in the face of all the technology that you have recently released, continuously released, and are they behaving or what's really happening? Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
First of all, we promised the presence of Mitra by 21st of April. And we have kept that. And in due course will be known by me. This is the change of the cycle of the maturity of the man, that the man becomes part of the universal community to be able to live and understand both dimensions of the soul and the physicality, that man become mature from now on to be able to travel the depth of the universe. In respect to hyperactivity, I always call the leaders of the world as well hyperactive children. Are we talking about the world leaders or talking about our children? The hyperactivity comes by the division of the rapid division of the plasmatic plasmas within the structure of the what we call some hormones of the body of the man, which they allow the rapid depletion. We see a massive change in the hydrogen level and a very large, what we call numbers in the carbon level, which means it interacts not only with the emotion, but through emotion interacts with the physical dimension, which means connects both to the emotion and the physicality at the same time. And we see children becoming in that way. And when we increase the carbon connection, we see more activities. And one of the reasons we see nowadays massive increase in the hyperactivity or children with a hyperactive behavior is because of that carbon connection. The drinks, the food which children are exposed to now, if you look at it, has E numbers. E 400, E 420. But ask yourself, what are these E's? These E's are the new structure of carbon interactions which has extracted from mines from carbon. The new coloring, the new additives, the taste, all come from this point. And in that level, it becomes much easier to become much more effective, to become in a way to understand that hyperactivity, what we call, due to the new additives which are carbon-based. It means they create more connections with more levels in the body of the man. So we see hyperactive children, which means they have, through the digestion or breathing or drinking in any shape or form, or being in touch with clothing, even toys, will transfer energies to the body that leads to and concludes in the direction and dimension of the more release of energies from the cell of body of the man into the what we call physical activities or interactions. We see this heavily nowadays with especially drinks. All the ease you see now is in clothing, we see more of. We see more ease in what we call foods, additives, coloring, sugars. They all come from mined carbons, most of it in that level. And a lot of organizations are striving to find more natural colors. Research into using beetles, for example, for children, what they call it, like branded sweets, that they use beetles, a structure body for creating red color. In China, we have algae, which comes from the seaweed, which now they're striving to find much more natural blue colors that they don't go into east, and it costs huge amount of money in research and development. And because we understand more. At the same time, we see impregnation of the clothing, which leads, even by wearing clothing, we see behavioral, what you call, development from people, because in us receiving energies through embedded impregnation of the colors, the muscle tissue receives such amount of energy that it makes you active. You want to do things. People don't realize how deep this technology of the additives leading to hyperactivity has gone. And then on the skin levels, we see all sorts of interaction with the lymph systems, and then in all sorts of cancers. So hyperactivity is not just jumping up and down. With the clothing, we have seen for a long time, certain clothing brings certain expectation of emotion. With the coloring they use, it's not just that visually you see it, is actually sits inside the absorption of the fields from the embedded material. This is one of the ways that what we now promoting as a Keshe Foundation clothing with the colors and the paints, especially on the sports wears or what we put out and it'll be used in the enhancement unit. These are natural plasma systems that it cannot create such a condition because as is natural, it interacts in the balance fields, is not there to feed into. In a coming time, as many of you have seen, new technologies will emerge out of the new science of the plasma technology, replacing additives, because with a natural product. And you will see, if the knowledge goes further, that you can produce a lot of things with this. And Keshe Foundation Research and Development is working in that way in additives with clothes. The cotton process we started, which hopefully will come to fruition in the next few months. The material for it will be in the market next March, April, by the time we process it. It will have that kind of effect because it's embedded within the structure of the seed that naturally balance itself out. It's the same what you do with diabetic and use of the cancers to overcome diabetes. You have done a lot of that one in Africa. You've seen how the gas cup #1 or this CO2 production has changed many of your knowledge seekers to lose their diabetic effect. Because you're replacing it, you're teaching the body to use a natural energy level, which comes from the natural gas technology, because that's the reason for it. But it doesn't look for additional combination of CH to become the sugar, but it learns that this is the level because it's balanced itself. Many of you, when you buy what we call the sugar cups or sugar ingredients, or you make it yourself, some of the materials have to learn when you deal with what you call the ganses, where, for example, for diabetic, you always don't just drink it. You have to understand diabetic is controlled, and in so many ways is a psychosomatic, and in that condition sits within the kidney of the man. You have to wash your kidneys from outside, creating an environment for it with the same gas water. You see a permanent change. You just don't drink the gas water for diabetic, and then when you stop, it goes, because you haven't sorted out the home where what we call insulin foundation of dragging out is not there. You have to regulate the house where it disposes of the chemicals which helps or damages the process inside, and that's your kidney. When you have a blood pressure, when you have a diabetic and you use the plasma technology, as I said, by drinking and seeing, oh, it dropped and it comes back, because you're repairing the car, you haven't changed the brakes. You have to deal with the emotion side. You have to deal with the house which handles the emotion of pressure and diabetic, which is your kidney. That's where you get rid of your materials. And none of you don't follow the procedure. And then, oh, I was good, it helped me some, and it's gone. Now we see the same thing with this virus situation. People say the new, stronger strand of it has come, this virus, that, but you haven't understood. Doesn't matter in what shape or form it appears, look at the combination of the weaker strength and connection to the amino acid of it. Understand the technology. Just don't go for willy-nilly, oh, this time it happened, last time it didn't. Because you have to understand, you need to fix everything. This is why when we tell you with the new vision enhancement, don't expect that tomorrow you receive. It has to be produced in a specific way. We have to be seeing how you respond to it, that we can elevate and take it further. And in so many ways, do we enhance the soul of the man through the same connections? The knowledge has to be comprehended in a full spectrum of it, not just as it goes.
Explain in an easier way for them how the plasma technology through the fields and position of the planets can interact with our society and even plants and even animals. Always, thank you, Mr. Keshe. I don't know if I made myself clear. Thank you very much.
If you look at the body of the man, has an organ called kidney, one is liver, one is intestine. The structure of the planetary system in a solar system are the same. Each one is responsible for a certain function within the structure of the solar system. It's the same for every star in a galaxy and every universe with its galaxies. So in that position, when you have a problem with your kidney, you become diabetic and reflects on the rest of the body. So is the position of the planetary system in a solar system. They create certain field interactions, and as we are plasmatic ourselves, in one way or another, they touch us. They create a collective mood or behavior in all of us. When we go into the winter season in Northern Hemisphere, in the Scandinavian countries, because of the lack of certain fields, we create depression in the large number of the members of the society. It's a big problem today. On a few days ago, for the first time in Iran, 82 or 84 people committed suicide in one city in one day. Never been known. Average death toll by suicide in the country is about 15. How collectively so many people decided to commit suicide, nothing to do with each other. And is this the progress of the second cycle of what we see with the virus, which has hit Iran heavily? Or is it what we said, creation of different fields in plasma, which has come in the first cycle? Are we going to see a continuation of rise in suicide? So, as we said, this virus affects a lot of other things, including emotion. So, in that respect, we start looking to understand that yes, Jupiter and Saturn in the background are collector of gases. You know, it's a gas tank. It's, let's say, the end part, as we have in the body of the man, they collect the gases. But where those gases are released to? Then you have systems in the front which absorb most of the heat that certain lengths and strengths are absorbed with. So the body of the man, there is no difference in it with the body of the solar system. Each unit, each satellite, each moon, each planet has a functionality, or because of its creation, has created a function in the solar system, the same as us. There is no difference, but we have to understand what's the purpose of it. It's not just there sunning around. Up to now, we accept it because we didn't have a knowledge. We just looked at the physicality of something has got 11 moons and something got 1 moon and is distant. But what does this serve? We know they interact because the simplest one is the moon. The moon affects us, our mood, and even our oceans, what we call height of the water in the cup of the earth, we call it, because how does it move? How do we have a high tide and a low tide? So we do affect. It has affected us, but up to now we were not wise to it. Some scientists over time, they say, oh, when Jupiter is here, does this to man, we see more this, more that. They're correct. But they, in a deeper way, some scientists in the past have touched it. Da Vinci tried to understand this in a very, very devious way through the organs which he was buying from those people who were burying them. But he couldn't connect it. When you look at some of the work of Da Vinci in depth, you understand Da Vinci was looking for the answer. And in some of his paintings, he has cleverly hidden the knowledge he has gained of the creation and the creator, of the balance of the energies within the satellites, within the wing of the angels, which he draws sometimes. That's the balance of the field. And in so many ways, we have to understand part of this knowledge. Because when you cover number of fields, you see similarities, you can connect it to. And yes, stars in our galaxy even have effect on our behavior as a collective. Even our own star has an effect on our behavior as a collective humans, which have faced it when it showed massive release of energies or it pulled energy. We are connected to it. It's so minute that we just go flip. And stars and their planetary system have a direct effect on even the DNA structure and behavior of their citizens, or as we call their creation. When you next time look at the position of Mars, in that position, or Jupiter or Saturn or Moon, look at the collective structure of the fields and what these fields mean, because now we can gradually measure them. And then if the same as what we saw with the cocaine and with the alcohol, if that field strength fits in the part of our what we call harmonic amino acid balance of the plasma, nuclear plasma understanding, then like cocaine will make us dizzy, like the other one makes us drunk, or maybe it makes us at the point of wisdom. Because not all the hormones we know are the way you see it. In a certain position of the brain of the man, hormones of the wisdom, what we call wisdom, is created. Depends what energy we put into it. So we see this, and now we have to understand more, and you're not wrong. And in a way, it's nice to see that the knowledge is opening up new insight, that we are looking for the next step to answer and find solutions. We will be touched as we travel the depths of the universe by magnetic fields of the stars and galaxies as we pass. The same as our own moons and planetary system in our solar system. The same as us have a different emotion in the position of the winter and summer, in different position of this planet. Any other?
I just wanted to ask a few things.
Where are you
there?
from? Sorry?
New Zealand?
Israel.
New Zealand. Oh, is my mic? Yeah, because I haven't got a proper mic. It's just the phone itself.
We hear you pretty good. He's from New Zealand, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you
Did
very
you
much.
hear?
Sorry, we couldn't understand it.
Like a while ago, probably a couple of years back, you said for people to try and put their hands together and make the light between them.
What?
Like if a person can put their hands together and create light between them.
Creating light between the hands, Mr. Keshe.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is this basically what the thalamus does? Because there's two of them, eh? One for the left and one for the right hemisphere.
You can control the field release. That one is slightly stronger, or you can control the field release in a part of the neurosystem that you can create the interaction of the fields that lead to the creation of the light, or what we call the plasma of the light.
So is that like amping the fields up through your emotions and stuff?
But it needs concentration of the fields to be brought in, to be in the field environment of the whole, what I call cup of hand. You can hold it, you can manipulate it, and even with the movement of the fingers, you can bring the compression of the field to the balance that you can create.
Oh, yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask is, like, in one of your teachings, you talked about the 4 cups in a square, and then the person standing in the center. Do you remember that? Or are you still there? Or...
Yes, we are here.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I'm referring to with the 4 cups in a square, and then the person stands in the center.
Do you have a
repeat
question about that?
I think there might be like a, I don't know, a connection issue or something.
No, it's us not understanding New Zealand accent.
He's talking about the standing in front of the 4 cups, Mr. Keshe.
Yeah.
I'll translate for you.
Yeah, because like, well, I gather that when you look at like all these ancient, like the Buddhist temples, but towers in a square, and then they've got like the higher tower that sits in the center.
So,
I might have to, yeah. Well, I don't know. There's no connection. I can't hear anything properly. Well,
not sure what your question is, or what is the comparison you're trying to make there? Something about the Buddhist temple.
Yeah, and it's sort of got the same setup as you said, with putting the 4 cups in a square, and then standing in the center. You know, the 5 cups, like the universal 5 cups.
And that's like being in a Buddhist temple?
Yeah, well, the Buddhist temple it's the exact same setup with the 4 towers on each corner of the square, and then there's one that sits in the center that reflects the field spectrum. Because when you look at these temples, you see all these birds, like thousands of them, just spiraling around like the tops of them.
Well, Mr. Keshe, is there anything you'd like to say about that, or is it?
I don't understand the question.
He's trying to make some comparison between the way Buddhist temples are made and the 4 cups, standing in front of the 4 cups. But I think it's pretty much a stretch to try to compare both of them directly that way.
Yeah, no, because the 4 cups create the 4 cups create the inertia, and the one that stands in the center that absorbs the fields, like opens up the center.
Oh, now I understand what he's trying to tell us.
Okay.
Yeah, because around the Buddhist temples, you've got the depiction of the swastika with the 4 dots on the corners.
You can find understanding of the evolution of the knowledge of the plasma in different times by different, what I call, souls who have shared as they understood with humanity, and sometimes been put in a figure of what you call construction and a field transfer. And we see this.
Well, yeah, that sort of brings me to my final question is, so could you just have like the higher fields of ganses to create the inertia? That way it incorporates everything. You know what I mean? Instead of like just having like a whole bunch of different food ganses, for example, you could just like have the deuterium or whatever, and then, you know, the inertia could be the absorption fields of those, like whatever strength level the body needs or whatever.
depends what you understand from the interaction of the fields and how you want to interpret it. And I always say, I was yesterday in the lab and I was told, oh, we made a mistake, something there. I said, we never make mistakes. In this technology, this knowledge of creation, no one makes mistake. It's just that we do different things and from it, we gather different knowledge. And what we gather and we use it, that's the beauty of what we learn from the process. And if you see it that way and you can interpret it, maybe open our eyes into a new way to look at things, which we didn't before. And you're not wrong. And opens us, possibly the scientists understood at that time what it means and what it leads to. And in the name of what I call whatever religion or path of belief, they built something to manifest or visualize what it was said and taught about.
Oh yeah, well, that's all I wanted to know. I mean, I wouldn't want to go mess things up, you know.
In this knowledge, we're all knowledge seekers, and the intellect of all of us becomes a collective intellect. And how we use it and how we can use it for our better understanding or better life. Possibly is what you think somebody taught, maybe in that way, maybe was the reason the buildings were built.
Oh yeah, well, that's all I wanted to know for now. Thanks.
Any other question? Or shall we call it a day?
Well, we do need to wrap it up quite soon here so that we can keep under the magic 4-hour mark so that the transcriber.
We extend the knowledge in understanding of what is the physical life and what will bring us the elevation of the more fields to be available to the physical dimension and how your body might use it in improving the cycle of life.
Okay, do we have any other announcements or special things to bring up?
Not really. Thank you very much for being with us. I hope we could share more knowledge. We could share the understanding of the more of the knowledge of the creation. And today's teaching opened up another dimension in vision of the man, in what we see, in what we expect, in what we accumulate to be part of our knowledge. Knowledge seekers, as I said, we always seek to achieve the best. And in that process, we do our best to understand not only the process of the physical life, but understanding the higher level which we are created out of. We have looked at what is in other dimensions. Now we are looking up to understand where we came from. And in that process, we try to understand where we are going to. What is the purpose of us as created to be here, to serve, or to be part? Thank you very much for today, and thank you very much, Rick, and the whole of the Keshe Foundation in the background for the work and support.
Very good. Thank you once again, Mr. Keshe, for another Knowledge Seekers Workshop, the 377th one, for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021.
It's time for change.
Nadszedł czas zmiany, przejścia do prawdziwego działania wszechświata.
And it's time to
I
understand
nadszedł czas, aby zrozumieć, że używamy stanu materii,
to reach
by osiągnąć poziom zrozumienia duszy człowieka.
of the soul of the man. Now you understand maybe
Teraz rozumiesz, być może, dlaczego Kreator
Creator has sent his messengers
wysłał
in the name
swoich
of
posłańców
whatever you have
w imię tego, co miałeś.
is that
To
they
oni przynoszą
bring
uszy,
the ears, that it can be
aby
used
można było
when
ich
the
użyć,
time of the
gdy nadejdzie
Messiah
czas
comes.
Mesjasza.
They can teach the soul and the
Mogę
message,
nauczyć duszę i przesłanie,
not to oppose.
nie by się przeciwstawiać,
By them
ale poprzez ich
understanding
zrozumienie
those who have
przez
become
tych,
messiahs,
którzy stali się
to give from their
Mesjaszami,
souls to these
aby
two
dawać ze
beings.
swoich dusz, aby ich elewować.
The job is made
Zadanie
easy.
stało się łatwe.
The school is there.
Szkoła
The
jest tutaj
students
i
are
uczniowie są tutaj w oddaniu.
there. There won't be any
Wtedy nie
fight
będzie żadnej
between
walki
what they call the
między tym, co
Muslims
nazywają
and Christians.
muzułmanami a
The
chrześcijanami.
lamb and the lion
Baranek i lew będą jeść i spać w tym samym gnieździe.
the Christians and the
Chrześcijanie i
Muslims
muzułmanie
will sleep
będą
and pray
spać
in
i
the
modlić się w
mosque
meczecie,
and the same
w tym samym
church
kościele,
in the name of
w imię
their
ich
souls,
dusz,
not in the
nie w
name
imię
of
religii,
that is used
które
to
są
create so
używane do
much
tworzenia tak wielu konfliktów,
for the benefit
dla
of
korzyści
those
tych,
who are
którzy
the
byli
hyperactive
hiperaktywnymi dziećmi.
children. The time has come.
Nadszedł
The time
czas,
of change is
czas
here.
zmian jest tutaj.
And as I said,
I jak powiedziałem, moje życzenie jest moim rozkazem.
if it's your wish
Jeśli
to
pragniesz
see
ujrzeć pokój, droga pokoju jest wyłożona bardzo wyraźnie.
the soul
To
of
dusza
the
świadomości
collective
zbiorowej.
awareness by
Poprzez
giving
dawanie
or
stworzy
create
tą
that
pozycję
position
zmiany.
of change. No,
Nic innego.
there is no
W duszy
pen
człowieka
in the
nie ma
soul of the
długopisu.
man. And I'm
Jestem
sure
pewien,
once
że
you
po
go
wejściu
into
do
the
społeczności uniwersalnej
you will
nigdy nie
never see
zobaczysz
anything
niczego
written,
zapisanego,
but
ale
the
równowagę
balance of the
pól
being
duszy
of the soul of
egzystencji.
the existence. Try to be humble
Staraj
enough
się być na tyle pokornym,
not to become
aby nie
arrogant
stać się
in the
aroganckim w
power
mocy,
that you have understood and
którą
you
zrozumiałeś i posiadłeś.
otherwise you'll fall
Inaczej
in the same
wpadniesz w tą
path
samą
of the
ścieżkę
church.
kościoła i meczetu.
This
To
is
jest to, co
what we
obiecaliśmy
promised.
i to właśnie dostarczyliśmy.
This is what we have delivered. We have to understand
Musimy
the
zrozumieć
operation of the
działanie
soul,
duszy
and we have to
i
understand
musimy
the soul of
zrozumieć,
the man
że
is
dusza
a
człowieka
star
jest gwiazdą
in the
w kosmosie
cosmos
wszechświata.
of the universe. If we
Jeśli
compare
porównamy
the soul of the man
duszę człowieka i tak wielu
and
nas,
many of us,
7 miliardów w jednym zbiorze,
Earth is like a galaxy.
Ziemia jest jak galaktyka
So many
z tak
stars.
wieloma gwiazdami.
When we look in the depth
Kiedy
of the
patrzymy w
universe,
głąb
we see
wszechświata,
galaxies with
widzimy
hundreds of
galaktyki z
billions of
setkami
stars.
milionów gwiazd.
So is the
Podobnie
planet
jest z
Earth.
planetą Ziemią.
Carries
Niesie 7
billion
miliardów
beautiful
pięknych
stars
gwiazd,
which are the
które
soul
są
of the
duszą człowieka.
carries
Niesie z
within
sobą
the
duszę
soul
tak
so
wielu
many
trylionów
trillions
zwierząt,
of
roślin
animals,
i
plants,
wszystkiego
and
innego.
animals. So
Jeśli
if you
więc
look,
patrzą ci,
when someone who does
którzy
not
nie
see
widzą
the
fizyczności
physicality
Ziemi
of the earth and its
i jej
contents,
zawartości,
what do
co
they see?
widzą?
They see a
Widzą
galaxy.
galaktykę z wielką
So
ilością
many
pięknych,
beautiful
świecących
lights
świateł,
shining. Each
każda
one
według
according to
swojej
their
siły,
strength. Each
każda
one
zgodnie ze
according
swoją
to their
pozycją.
position. An infant,
Niemowlę ma piękną duszę,
so has
podobnie jak
soul.
staruszek.
To those
Dla
who
tych
do not see the
niefizycznych,
physical
którzy nie widzą
dimension of this
fizycznego
planet,
wymiaru tej planety,
but they see the
ale widzą
strength of
siłę
the field,
pola,
we are a
jesteśmy
cosmos
gromadami
of
gwiazd.
stars. The human race,
Ludzka rasa, każda
every
pojedyncza
single
dusza,
soul, no one
nikt z
from a
daleka nie
distance
widzi.
sees, that's
To
the
jest
soul
dusza
of the
rybaka,
fisherman, that's the
to
soul
jest
of
dusza
the
kosmologa,
scientist, that's
to
the
jest
soul of
dusza
the president.
prezydenta. Wszystkie świecą bez względu na fizyczność. To jest magia. Oto co nowa nauka musi przynieść człowiekowi. Kiedy patrzymy przez naszą duszę, widzimy tylko gwiazdy w innych duszach. I to jest przełom. To jest zrozumienie. Na tym właśnie polegają te wszystkie nauki. Dojście do dojrzałości następnego poziomu, aby zrozumieć daleki kosmos. Wszechświat jest ostrygą dla tych dusz, które służą. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy do wejścia w kosmos. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy, aby stać się częścią uniwersalnej społeczności, która została obiecana. Nigdy nie obiecywałem wam nieba. Zawsze obiecywałem wam elewację człowieka, aby przyłączył się do rodziny. A teraz macie klucz. To wy musicie otworzyć drzwi, aby zrozumieć, że mogę elewować duszę tych ludzi lub milionów innych dusz, że fizyczne życie na tej planecie zmieni się. Wtedy jestem godny bycia częścią społeczności uniwersalnej, by być, aby służyć, aby się rozwijać, by być tam, aby być częścią, że w cyklu życia wszechświata staje się w byciu częścią, staje się częścią totalności. Kiedy człowiek osiągnie ten punkt, pojawi się nowy wymiar w sile duszy człowieka, który jest poza wyobrażeniem zrozumienia życia fizycznego. To jest brama do otwarcia nowego życia w nowym wymiarze, co jest poza wyobrażeniem tego, co mogliście nazwać nowym początkiem, nowym cyklem, gdzie ten cykl niesie ze sobą źródło stworzenia życia we wszechświecie i unikosie. To jest elewacja duszy, aby służyć. Stała się kluczem. Nie tron życia fizycznego. Czas jest odpowiedni. Nadszedł czas, aby człowiek przeszedł przez ten proces.